Hi everyone, today we're going to be working with fondant. I'm going to be making the horn and the ears for our Pegasus cake. Let's get started. When you roll out your fondant, before you cut into it, the first thing you want to do is dust a little bit of confectioner sugar on both sides so that you get a nicer cut and the fondant doesn't stick to the mat. For the ears, you want to use two different size teardrop shapes. These are for rose petals, so I'm going to use these two. So I'm going to make two of each because we're making two ears. Okay, so now we have our two teardrop shapes, two different sizes. My daughter is making the ears for the cupcakes, and these are so small that we didn't end up putting a little stick on it, but for the cake I will be putting lollipop sticks on them. I recommend that you don't use toothpicks when you're making decorations that go on a cupcake, just because it is going to be given to kids and lollipop sticks are 100% kids safe. I'm just going to add a little bit of water right here where I'm going to put this smaller petal. Before I put this petal, I'm just going to insert my lollipop stick 1/4 of the way, and I'm going to press all the way down the thickness of this fondant piece. Then I'm going to glue the smaller piece. I'm going to let this one sit a little bit lower. Okay, and I'm going to do the same with that one. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of water here, just a small amount. And then I'm going to pinch it right in the bottom here, right at the bottom here. Okay, and this here is ready to go. I'm going to put it on my flour former just so that it stays in its shape while it dries. So we're going to grab a little bit of fondant. And making this horn does take practice. It did take me quite a few tries to figure out how to make this horn when I first started making unicorn horns. So it does take a while. And basically you're just trying to make a long cone-shaped fondant piece. This is the exact same method that you would use to make your smaller horns for your cupcakes. The more evenly gradual you roll out your cone shape, the more perfect your horn is going to look. One thing that I wanted to mention is that I do like to make my horn a little bit bigger than what I will end up using because it's easy for me to cut it and make the horn smaller. If I made the horn too small from the beginning, then I'd have to start making it all over again. So it's easier just to make it bigger and then just cut it shorter to make it a smaller horn. Okay, so I'm ready to start making my horn. So using my long lollipop stick, this is the one that's going to go in the cake. I'm just going to add a little bit of water halfway down. And I'm going to add a little bit of water all the way down my fondant piece. This small amount of water is going to help me mold it into the shape that I want, but at the same time, it's not going to stick so hard that I won't be able to manipulate it while I'm creating the shape, if that makes sense. Now I'm just going to start winding it loosely around my stick. And then I'm going to start coiling it up to create the shape that I want. On this bottom part, I'm going to leave it loosely coiled, and I'm going to start tightening the coil as I go upwards. With the top part of my horn, it's actually not going to be. It's going to actually extend from the stick because having the top of the horn touching this stick is not going to give me a sharp pointy look, so I do have to extend it out of the stick to create that more pointy shape. So you just want to coil it until you get the shape that you like. So I like the shape of my Pegasus horn, and this is actually the size of the top tier of my cake, so it's really quite small, and I can already tell that it is a little bit on the bigger side. Let's say you decided, okay, it's a little bit too big. So what you can do is you can just get a knife or a scissor or an X-Acto knife, and you can just cut it to the length that you want to make it shorter. It's a lot easier just to cut it and make it smaller than to have to redo it all over again. You want to let your horn dry for a couple of hours or preferably overnight. I'm going to start painting it right away. I'm going to paint my ears first. You want to try to not get any of the silver on the bigger piece. You just want to put it on this smaller inner piece of the ears. Okay. Now we're going to paint the horn. So the horn and the ears of my cake are ready to go. One thing that I did want to mention about the little horns for the cupcakes is that they do take a long time to make by hand. If you were to be making, 25 cupcakes, or if you did this for a business and you did have to make horns quite often, I would highly recommend that you buy the silicone mold that makes the horns. For me, I'm only making 12 cupcakes, so I don't mind making them by hand. If I was doing these for a style shoot and I was going to have a professional photographer taking pictures of these cupcakes, I would definitely be making them by hand. Visually, I do like the look of a handmade horn in comparison to a silicone mold, but if you are a beginner and you don't want to be sitting here for hours making them by hand, or if you do this for a business, then the silicone molds are more ideal.